Hello, I'm Charlotte Cohen and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Friday the 16th of January. And it's Scottish Cup weekend.
I see a little bit of everything. Confidence, a little bit of fire, a bit of hunger. Because there's some talented players in there. But again, it's just trying to get that out of them and understand what this club is. And
Managerless Aberdeen and Freefall host Wraith Rovers. And there's two managers agreeing about one thing at least. Livingston and St Mirren tell VAR it's banned.
The Livingston manager David Martindale says his side and St Mirren have agreed there will be no VAR at their Scottish Cup tie in West Lothian on Saturday.
Which team in the relegation fight will get a lift from a win here? And Jim Goodwin's toiling Dundee United face a tricky tie as they host Ayr.
It's going to be a really difficult game, of course it is. There's no easy games in the Cup. There'll be no pressure on Ayr United, obviously, coming to play us at our home patch. But the expectation is there for us, and the players will be well aware of that going into the game.
We'll fill you in on a massive weekend of Cup action.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Alongside me this morning, Moira Gordon, Scottish football writer and Spartans aficionado. Important question for you, Moira. Is it Spartans or the Spartans?
It's just Spartans to me, but the Spartans will work officially.
And alongside us, Cillian, Sheridan, striker with 6 teams who are in cup action this weekend. Celtic, Motherwell, Kilmarnock, Dundee, Inverness and Queen's Park. So the perfect person to lead us through. Cillian, good morning. How's it going?
Morning, yeah, very good. A little bit disappointed not to be involved in it, but anyway.
Ah, well, you can watch on.
Over it, yeah.
You can cheer on Spartans, Cillian.
Let's start with troubled Aberdeen, who host Wraith Rovers. Aberdeen 5 points behind Falkirk in the race for top 6, despite having spent quite a lot of money in the transfer market. Moira, do you think this is a club in crisis at the moment?
It's not one that's sitting comfortably, that's for sure. So I think crisis, we laugh about it. It's these crisis and crisis chat. It comes maybe a bit too freely, but it's a club that certainly isn't comfortable at the moment. There's a lot of issues to be sorted. And I think when you're in that state, I don't think a cup game is what you would fancy necessarily, especially against a team that people think may be capable of something. I mean, Wraith Rovers aren't the best form they've ever been, so they're not as dangerous as they might have been a couple of seasons ago maybe, but it's still a tricky time for them to be facing. And I think when everything else has been going wrong and the only sort of bright spot in your recent history has been that Scottish Cup win for Aberdeen, they've been, that's helped paper over a heck of a lot of cracks this season. So they don't want the Scottish Cup to be the one that just increases the issues at the club, so they'll be looking forward to getting through this one if they can and maybe taking a bit of momentum from it.
They've obviously got the manager search going on in the background. They seem to be taking their time with it, looking to get the appointment right. Cillian, do you think they can afford to wait? I mean, as a player, what's it like not knowing what's happening with the manager?
They have to. They don't really have a choice. It's just one of those things that the club are probably not wanting to rush into making a decision. They know probably how important it is at this stage of the season, where they are. To bring in the right manager can come in, get a bounce, and then they can make a push for the top 6. Otherwise, if they don't manage to make the top 6, it is a very poor season for them. The cup maybe gives them a little bit of comfort just for the fact that they won it last season, so it might give them, I don't know, some sort of confidence in it. I think they should have confidence and be confident that they can get through the rounds playing a team in a lower division. In regards, it doesn't really matter who that is. It's if it was maybe any other team apart from St Johnstone, they probably would really fancy themselves. And the fact they're at home as well, I think anything other than an Aberdeen win would be a big disappointment for them, and perhaps would increase the pressure or the need for them to make an appointment. So I think Aberdeen, as the people above the interim manager now, making all those decisions, they're probably praying the most that they do get through it, and it maybe buys them a little bit more time. Otherwise, if they were to lose to Wraith and get knocked out, that's kind of their season. That's their season done. then they're probably under a lot more pressure to go and make an appointment.
Yeah, I mean they're losing games. They can't really score. Moira, there's problems at both ends of the pitch for Aberdeen at the moment.
That's the problem. A lot of the time you'll find teams that are struggling to get the goals, but they'll make the most of the defensive side, the way they set up and try and minimise damage. Aberdeen are struggling to be able to do that because they can't get it right at either end, which is a major problem. And it's a concern in a cup game as well because, league games, people try and just find their way through it or find a way to win. Cup games, the opposition team is always up for it. Everything's on the line in these games, so it's not like people are relying on maybe having a little of a dip or an off day. Both teams absolutely know what's at stake. It's a win or bust game, so everybody's up for it. And if they don't match Wraith's determination or their will to win on that day, then that's going to be a major factor. It's going to be a problem.
And Wraith Rovers are led by Dougie Emery, who knows how to set up a team to be combative and aggressive and hard to play against. Cillian, that's the last thing a fragile Aberdeen need, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think Dougie Emery will have kind of been telling the players all week in the build up that they are coming into a team that are wounded, that are probably low on confidence. From playing against his teams, they're probably their biggest strength is in how they approach games and how they fight, and they need for them to probably be successful, they need to outfight Aberdeen, outrun them, and then it'll probably come down to what kind of quality they can have on the ball to hurt Aberdeen. I think if structurally they're sound and defensively they're solid, I think they will frustrate Aberdeen, and then it's probably about how Aberdeen can cope with potentially a bit of fan pressure and fan discontent during the game. So I think that's probably going to be massive in Dougie Emery's preparation and tactics for the game.
I was going to say, we've been here before with Aberdeen as well. It's like when you think back to the Darvel game, it was a similar, Jim was still holding on to his job at that point, but it was a point where Aberdeen were in real crisis, and the fans and the pressure and everything that went with that, we saw how fragile and how difficult they found it to contest with that at that point. So this is another test for them. I know it's some different players, but it'll be fresh in the mind of the Aberdeen fans, so they're not going to be comfortable if they go behind or they start looking like they're under threats. So it is going to be a massive mental test for them.
You can watch Aberdeen v Wraith live on BBC One Scotland from 2:30 on Sunday afternoon, and they'll also be live on Radio Scotland. Let's move on to what has become a talking point of a tie over the last few weeks in West Lothian. Livingston hosting St Mirren. Both managers agreed that the tie shouldn't have VAR. They've obviously both had their complaints. They both had their fair share of grievances with the technology. Cillian, are you surprised that both have opted to kind of shun it from this tie?
No, given recent interviews from both of them, or their public disdain for VAR, I think, and decisions that have gone against them. No, they're probably right to feel aggrieved, and both of them just want to probably get. They're probably both looking also for something different as well. Both kind of struggling in league form, and it's kind of, maybe it's just a breath of fresh air for them as well, where they can go in and they can. The only thing is now, maybe the referees will be thinking, well, we'll show them what it's like without VAR. Not to start anything or any theories, but no, I think it's probably will feel different for the players potentially. If you're used to it every week, something happens. I remember having it when I came back to Scotland the first time round and there was no VAR. And I just remember that first moment of a goal being scored. You kind of have that split second where you're thinking there's still a chance that this could be chalked off or this might not stand. But with no VAR, as soon as a goal is in and the referee, like you see the referee or the linesman not put their flag up, you know, right, the goal's there. It's happened. No matter, you might think someone's offside or you think there maybe was a foul in the build-up. It's gone. So you don't really have that little second or two after the goal where you're thinking, oh, there might be a chance it gets chalked off. So it'll be interesting to see how the players maybe have to adapt to playing without it now.
Moira, do you think more clubs will want to do this? Do you think this could maybe put a bit of pressure on the SFA in terms of maybe having conversations about the use of VAR in the league moving forward?
I think those conversations are already happening behind the scenes to a certain extent. I think there's an awful lot of clubs that are fed up with VAR at the moment. I think there's been a few contentious decisions, ones that have cost points, and in a season where everything is so tight, I think that's become an even bigger issue for a lot of the managers and players, knowing how much it could cost them, even if it just cost them one place in the league. That's a lot of money to these clubs. So people are already having conversations. I don't think it's working as effectively as it should be in this country at the moment. So I think there's definitely reasons for those conversations to be happening. And I think it's, listening to Cillian there, I think that's actually really refreshing, the idea that a striker scores a goal and can immediately celebrate without worrying about everything. Because I feel that that's affecting atmospheres in stadiums at the moment. Yeah, goals go in, and there's always that split second now where people are waiting to see what the reaction of the referee, whether he's suddenly holding his earpiece or, there's not that spontaneity, that immediate joy and instinctive joy that comes from goals being scored. And I think it's affecting fans, and I think that is then transmitting to players, managers who are already aggrieved at the idea of losing points that could cost them money in places in a very tight league.
I don't think the problem's the actual VAR. I think it's just the people doing it.
Yeah.
Like when they're going over and replaying stuff and they're showing us the mistakes that are made. It's mistakes all of us can see. So afterwards we're looking at it thinking, well, how have they come to that conclusion?
Yeah.
It's not I think that's the biggest issue, but I've just put a target on my back now for every referee, but anyway.
We'll be watching out for you, Cillian. If it's suddenly unfair treatment, that's it. There'll be a campaign to right the wrongs.
Suddenly just see a ton of red cards for Cillian and you're like, what's going on?
A ton of more red cards.
Well, we could talk about VAR until the cows come home, but on the pitch, Livingston are struggling, as are St Mirren. I think Livingston now approaching nearly 160 days without a win. They've not really been battered in games. They've been kind of close, but just undone in the end. But Cillian, they need to turn performances into results now if they want to start getting wins.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the fact they're playing another Premiership team, I always feel it takes a little bit away from that, especially in earlier rounds like this. It always takes away a little bit of the cup feel when you're playing another team in the same league. So although it's a break from the league for them, it's also sometimes feels like they don't want to waste. Like, I don't think Livingston think that they're going to go and win the Scottish Cup. St Mirren different because they've won the League Cup, but Livingston, it almost feel like you don't want to waste beating a team like St Mirren and then you're not getting 3 points for it. I think if they could, they'd probably take this as a league game and beat St Mirren and take the 3 points. But then on the other hand, it might give them a rest from the league where there's not those 3 points at stake. And like you said, they are all generally in games, which can help for a cup match. But yeah, it's a game where both teams are, like, yeah, I'm almost saying desperate for the 3 points, but I think St Mirren probably will have the confidence of the League Cup success, where they might feel more like, okay, we're actually a successful cup team now. So I'd probably have St Mirren as the favourites in it.
It's interesting because kind of since that League Cup win, which feels like forever ago now, St Mirren have really, really struggled. After the Hearts game, Stephen Robinson was very strong in his post-match, saying some of the players made him look stupid. Moira, can you read anything into that? I mean, he seemed pretty unhappy with a lot of the members of his squad.
I think it's one of those ones where managers try different tactics. They try and back the players. They'll try and keep it in-house. They'll try not to have a go at them publicly, worried that they might crush them mentally. But I think they also get to a point where they think, you know what, I've nothing to lose here. They're not responding to me. So if I give them a kick up the backside publicly, that could maybe G them up or get a response from them, whether it's just I'll show you or whatever it is. It's, he's hoping for a response from the players. Whether he gets it or not, it depends on the players. Some players do respond to that kind of public dressing down. Some of them will think, well, wait a minute, I've been knocking my pan out. It's just not working for me out there. So it depends. When you're accusing players of not training well and not giving everything, a lot of players object to that. A lot of players will feel that they're giving everything and it's just not going, and they're already low in confidence. So there's certain things players, Cillian will maybe speak to this better than me, but there's certain things I've known in the past that managers coming out and accusing them not of trying enough or not working hard enough. A lot of players are effectively calling them, wage cheats. That's the sort of things that players don't respond to necessarily. So it depends. It might be that you'll get enough of a response if you've got guys that'll say, right, I'll show you, but there might be others that'll say, all right, is that what you think? Well, let's see. So, Cillian will speak better to that. I'm not sure if he would respond, or he knows players how they would respond to being told that they're not training or they're not given enough. But it's a risky one for Stephen Robinson, but he obviously felt he had nothing to lose.
My attitude would never be questioned. That's the difference. I'd never have that problem. No, I think the way he is, because he's such, the way his team plays, you can see the players, everyone plays for him. So I think all the players respect him and like him. So I think he'll probably come in and explain what he said, maybe to the individuals that it was aimed at. So I don't think they do look like a squad, and he looks like a manager that he's earned probably the respect from the players where he can speak honestly about them. And he's probably come out and said stuff that he already said to them anyway. So it'll be probably the biggest loser in it all potentially is Livingston and David Martindale, where he's getting a St Mirren team totally fired up. Players will be up for it after that, and probably out with something to prove.
There's another classic cup tie from East End Park on Saturday. Dunfermline face Hibs. You can start building up to that one on the Saturday show from 9 o'clock, where Stephen and Amy are joined by Grant Stott and Jim Leishman. Moira, Neil Lennon facing one of his former sides, but Dunfermline have been a wee bit wobbly recently, but Hibs have kind of started to actually kick into gear.
I was going to say that I think this would be a juicier tie if the form of both teams wasn't what it was. I think Dunfermline, they're struggling to get wins at the moment. There's been a couple of draws in there, but there's been a couple of losses as well. So they're not going into it in the best form, and they're facing a Hibs side that seem to just be growing in confidence and belief and just getting a bit more momentum as the weeks are going on. So I think it's going to be a trickier one than it might have been for Dunfermline. But again, it's Neil Lennon, and you never write off Neil Lennon, especially when he's up against former teams or something to prove against people. So they'll not make it simple for Hibs, but I think it's probably a tie that they'll wish had come when the form was slightly different for both teams.
That game is live on BBC One Scotland at 12:30 on Saturday. There's a potential upset at Tannadice. Dundee United have been really struggling for form of late, and they face an Ayr side who've only lost once since the end of October. Cillian, this tie may be coming at the worst time for Jim Goodwin and his side.
Yeah, potentially. I think if it was maybe a stronger team, like if it was another Premiership team, I think maybe, but I don't know. I just feel like Dundee United should be too strong for Ayr. I think they know it's a tie that they'll be expected to win and need to win. That's probably not as big of an issue in the Premiership where that's on them every week. The fact they're at home as well, I think, is a massive advantage for them. If it was the other way about, I would have given more more hope for Ayr to get to beat them. But I think the tie Dundee United should be winning and should progress. But again, the way Scott Brown will set up his Ayr team, they'll be tough to play against. They won't give Dundee United a minute on the ball. But again, it goes back to similar to the rates performance for Aberdeen, where a big part of it will be how they are with the ball. They'll work and they'll frustrate Dundee United, but it's about when they get the ball, can they have the quality and composure to go and hurt them.
There's a classic romance of the cup tie on Sunday evening, Auchinleck Talbot hosting Celtic. Moira, they'll be wishing they were playing Celtic from a few weeks ago under Wilfred Nancy, not this Celtic under Martin O'Neill, who are finally finding a bit of form and ways to win games.
Yeah, I think that's a factor. To be honest with you, I think the fact that they're not playing at their home ground's a factor as well. I think given that advantage away, I think I think that's going to be hugely costly for them. They'll get their big payday, they'll get, the bigger gate receipt, but I think it limits their chances of getting through, and especially when you're against a Martin O'Neill team that, know how to win games, maybe not as classic Celtic style, but they're winning games under them. So I think it's for all we love romance of the cup and we love the idea of giant killing, I'm not sure this is going to be the one for them. I think there's been too much against them in the last few weeks, and I think, as I say, giving away their home advantage was the massive one.
Have you ever had that, Cillian, where you've had to have a game moved from your home ground, or if not, how would you feel as a player if you were having to move to a different stadium to play a game?
I don't think so. No, not that I can remember off the top of my head. No, I think everyone knows it's going to benefit Celtic playing on a better surface, albeit at an Astro, but it's bigger. It'll help Celtic. It'll tire out Auchinleck, and I just think it's sometimes in matches like that, I think there was still a massive task for them, even if they were playing on their own pitch. But pitches like that and small little stadiums and stuff like that can be a real leveler in matches like that. And I think that was probably would have been their biggest advantage, and that's out the window now. So now the only thing is, I just feel like it's obviously not an impossible task for them, but everything is now in Celtic's benefit, I would say, given their form, a better mood about the place, and then the biggest thing is that bigger pitch allows Celtic to be more expansive and just kind of they'll probably control the game a lot easier.
All the action kicks off tonight. Rangers hosting Annan at Ibrox. Moira, do you think Danny Rowe will be tempted to throw in one or two of his new signings, give them a bit of experience in the Cup?
I think it's a possibility. I think it's, especially in a game like this one, I think, again, like Cillian said, you'll never see it ever as an impossible task for the smaller teams to beat. But when you're going to Ibrox, especially the form the Rangers in, the likelihood of Annan winning, it's slim. Let's say. So I think there's a possibility that he'll put in some of the players, give them a chance. But again, you've got to be careful. It depends on ties like this. You don't want to get too clever and move things around. You want to make sure that the job's done and dusted. So you might do that and then bring them on and give them a bit of a run out against a team when they're already comfortable. But I'm not sure you want to mess around with your team too much when you're up in a cup tie when everything's at stake. So it'll be interesting to see. I think he'll probably give them a run out at some stage, but I'm not sure it'll be starting.
Cillian, I suppose like the Auchinleck Talbot Celtic game, this is probably a pretty straightforward game for Rangers and Danny Rowe.
Yeah, it should be. I think you'd expect it. It's one of those games where if it's not, it's completely different when Rangers are playing at home. When you're playing a team like that away, it's generally a no-win situation. If you don't win 4 or 5-0, it's like, yeah, well done. You're expected to win by that margin. So I think the game for them tonight will be pretty much how many they can score. Similar to Celtic, I think anything under I think if either of them aren't winning 4 or 5-0, it's not a great result, really. I know it's all about getting into the next round and progressing, but I don't really see any banana skin or anything other than that happening.
Well, that is all we've got time for. Many thanks to Cillian and Moira, and thank you very much for listening. The weekend football coverage starts tonight at 7 p.m. on Radio Scotland Extra with live coverage of Rangers v Annan. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so make sure you don't miss out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on your phone. Thank you very much again for listening. Enjoy the cup action and we will catch you again very soon.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.